Tonight, a boy begins to suspect that something is very wrong in his house. Not with the creaking basement door, not with the whispers behind the walls, but with himself. In this slow-burning psychological horror, memories twist, mirrors lie, and somewhere in the shadows of a forgotten home, the wrong one lives downstairs. Lay back, close your eyes, and remember, be careful who you switch places with, because some trades can never be undone. Chapter 1. Something Wrong with Silence. I don't think my parents remember I exist. Not really. They smile when I come to dinner. They say good morning if I pass them in the hall. But when I speak to them, really speak, they don't respond the way normal parents should. It's like I'm a song they once loved, now playing faintly from another room. I'm 11. I know that's not a baby anymore, but it's not old either. Old enough to feel when something's wrong. Young enough not to understand exactly what. All I know is that our house isn't quiet in the normal way. It's quiet in the way a locked door is quiet. And lately, I've started hearing things behind the basement door. We moved into this house 3 years ago, just after my little brother disappeared. They told me it was an accident, that he wandered into the woods behind the old house and got lost. They searched for him for weeks, but they never found anything. Except for the shoe. That part always makes my stomach twist. They found one little shoe by the creek, just sitting there like he took it off himself and waded in barefoot. But Thomas wouldn't do that. He was terrified of fish. They cremated nothing, held a service for nothing, and packed up everything we owned to move into this house with its mildew-thick walls and ceilings that groan like someone's walking upstairs even when no one is. They never talk about him anymore, not even once. Last week I tried to ask about Thomas. Mom was buttering toast in the kitchen, humming that same broken tune she always hums now, and I asked, "Do you ever think about Thomas?" She paused, mid-slice, knife hovering, and then looked right at me. "Who?" Then she smiled and went back to slicing as if I'd asked her about the weather. Not confused, not sad, just blank. I remember backing out of the kitchen, heart thudding. I remember staring at the basement door for a long time that night. It's always locked, always has been. I used to think it was just for storage until I started hearing the footsteps and the breathing. The breathing's the worst. It's shallow, slow, and right up against the door like something inside is waiting, listening. I tried telling Dad once. He was sitting in his study, staring at an old photograph of our family taken before Thomas vanished. I could see it in his hands, but he didn't look at me when I spoke. "There's something in the basement," I said. He nodded like he'd heard me, but then he just whispered, "Wrong one." I blinked. "What?" Still staring at the photo, he whispered again, "We picked the wrong one." I left the room without asking anything else. I haven't gone back in since. That night I lay awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the slow, wet breaths I could hear through the floorboards. They went on for hours, steady as a heartbeat. I haven't told anyone at school. I don't have friends anyway. Not really. People think I'm weird. My clothes smell like damp wood. I don't laugh at the right moments, and I never want to go to other kids' houses because deep down, I know no one else's home sounds like this. This morning, though, I did something I've never done before. I stole the key. It hangs on a little hook above the pantry, next to Dad's shed keys. I waited until Mom went out back to hang laundry, and Dad started up the lawnmower. I stood on a stool, reached up and took it in one quick motion. It was cold in my palm. Heavier than I expected. Like it knew it wasn't supposed to be touched. I tucked it under my shirt and returned to my room, heart racing, unsure if I was brave or stupid. And now, as I sit here writing this in the fading afternoon light, the key sits next to me on the desk. The basement door waits at the end of the hall like a mouth sealed tight. I don't know what's down there, but I have a feeling it remembers me. Because last night, just before I drifted off, I swear I heard a voice whisper through the vent, "Come see me, brother." Chapter 2. The Thing That Knew My Name. I didn't go down right away. All day at school, the key burned in my pocket like a second heartbeat. I kept touching it, pressing it with my fingers like it might disappear. Every time the teacher called on me, I jumped. Every footstep behind me felt like someone was coming to take it back. I got home just after 4. My parents weren't home. Dad's truck was gone, and Mom probably wandered to the corner store like she sometimes does when her mind slips sideways. She doesn't bring back groceries, just stands in the kitchen staring at her hands like she forgot what she was supposed to hold. The house was too still, not dead quiet, because the house is never truly silent, but holding its breath. I walked down the hall slowly, past the laundry room and the coat closet. The basement door stood at the end, unassuming and plain. White paint, brass knob. It looked like it could lead to anything. I held the key in my fist. My hands were shaking. Something deep in my chest screamed not to do it, that whatever was on the other side wasn't meant for light. But the voice, "Come see me, brother." It hadn't sounded angry. It had sounded lonely. I fit the key into the lock. It turned with a click, loud as a gunshot. The air changed, not cooler or warmer, just wrong. Like the pressure dropped tight, and suddenly the house wasn't mine anymore. I opened the door slowly. The stairs stretched down into pitch, wooden, steep, each one groaning under my step. The smell hit me halfway down, mould and something metallic, something like blood that sat too long on stone. I kept going. At the bottom, my feet hit concrete. I clicked on the bare hanging bulb above. It flickered. Once, twice, then stayed on. The basement was small, cramped, walls lined with shelves of canned goods long past expiration. A rusted water heater stood in the corner, weeping a slow trickle onto the floor. And then I saw the door, not the one I'd come through. Another one, at the far end of the basement wall, smaller, older. The wood swollen, the handle tarnished with greenish rot. I shouldn't have gone near it, but I did. I reached out, and it opened on its own. The room beyond was dark, but not empty. A crib. A crib sat in the centre, wood warped and damp, a thin mattress inside stained deep brown. And standing beside it, I almost screamed. It was a boy, pale, thin, dressed in a shirt I remembered, red stripes, Thomas's favourite, the one he wore the day he vanished. He looked up at me, eyes milky and dead, and smiled. "Hi," he said. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "You finally came," he said. "They said you wouldn't." "Thomas?" I whispered. He shook his head. "No, you're Thomas." I staggered back. "What?" "They took the wrong one," he said softly. "They meant to leave me, but you cried so loud, they couldn't tell which was which, so they kept you instead." He stepped forward. His feet didn't make a sound. "I tried to tell them. Every night, but they wouldn't listen. They said I was sick, that I was making things up, so they locked me down here." My mouth went dry. "But you disappeared." He tilted his head. "Did I?" I turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind me. I grabbed the knob, yanked. It wouldn't budge. "They were going to fix it," the boy said, walking toward me. "But then they decided maybe you were better. Maybe it didn't matter anymore." He was inches away now. "But it does," he whispered. "It matters a lot." His smile stretched too wide. His skin split at the corners of his mouth. Something wriggled beneath his shirt, thin, black, boneless things twitching against the fabric. "I'm the real one," he said, voice cracking like old wood. I screamed. Everything went black. Chapter 3. Where the Real Ones Go. I woke up on the living room floor. The first thing I saw was the ceiling fan, slowly spinning above me. A weak breeze tickled the sweat on my neck. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined it all. The key, the basement, the boy who wore my brother's face. Then I sat up and felt the bruise. A deep ache bloomed along the left side of my ribs, like I'd been shoved or dropped. My shirt was damp, not with sweat, but with something thicker. I pulled it up and stared at the smear of red-brown on my side. Not blood, rust. The smell confirmed it. Wet metal and mould. I'd been in the basement. I scrambled to my feet. The basement door was closed, locked again. I ran to the pantry and checked the hook. The key was back, but I hadn't put it there. My hands shook as I made my way upstairs to the bathroom. I splashed cold water on my face, looked in the mirror. Something felt off. My face was mine, but the eyes, they looked uncertain, like they weren't convinced. "Thomas," I whispered to myself. I didn't even mean to say it. It just came out, like a reflex, like it fit. All day I waited for my parents to say something, ask why I was on the floor, ask about the rust on my shirt. They said nothing. Dad ate quietly. Mom hummed that song again, off-key and droning, and I sat between them, trying not to scream. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling again, and the voice came back. But not through the vent this time. It came from the hallway, just outside my bedroom door. "You're not supposed to be here," it whispered. I sat up slowly. The house was dark, except for the strip of moonlight across my floor. I crept to the door and opened it. The hallway was empty, but the bathroom light was on. I padded forward, heart hammering. The door was half open, mirror fogged. A single wet footprint lay on the tile. It was small, child-sized, bare. I stepped in slowly. The mirror cleared, and for a second, just 1 second, I saw something behind me, a face. My face, but pale, lips too red, eyes too wide. Then it was gone. The light flickered. I backed out and ran to my parents' room. The door was closed, but I could hear them inside. "Breathing, Mom?" I whispered. "Dad?" No answer. I knocked gently. "Please, there's something wrong." A pause, then my father's voice. Flat, hollow. "Not tonight." I waited. Then I asked the question I'd been afraid to say aloud since the moment I met the boy in the basement. "Did you lock the wrong one down there?" Another pause. Longer. Then Mom spoke. "It was dark," she said. "We couldn't tell. One was screaming, one was silent." "You left him down there." "You're here," Dad said. I didn't know what that meant. I still don't. I returned to my room and locked the door. The rust stain on my shirt hadn't faded. It smelled stronger now, like something was bleeding iron. Chapter 4. Rust in the Walls. It started leaking through the drywall. Tiny rivulets of rust red, snaking from the baseboards of the hall near the basement door. At first I thought it was just water. This house is old and cracked, but when I pressed a tissue to it, the paper came back stiff, brown, and smelling like a penny in the sun. I showed it to Dad. He just nodded. "It's bound to get out," he said. I stared at him. "What is?" He smiled at me. But it wasn't warm. I didn't go to school that day. Instead, I waited until both of them left. I heard the car pull out of the gravel driveway. I waited another 10 minutes just to be sure. Then I went back to the basement. The key was in my pocket again. I swear I didn't take it this time. But there it was. I unlocked the door, descended the stairs. It was darker than before. The bulb above barely flickered now, but the second door, the one with the swollen wood and tarnished handle, was open already. Inside the small room, the crib was gone. In its place was a mirror, tall, thin. The frame carved with symbols I didn't recognize, spirals, eyes, teeth, and my reflection was wrong. It moved when I didn't. I lifted my hand. It stayed still. Then slowly, so slowly, it smiled. "Want to switch?" it asked. My stomach dropped. Its mouth kept moving, but I heard the words inside my head instead of my ears. They always want the quiet one, the clean one, the calm one. It took a step forward, but the real floor didn't creak. "I was too loud," the reflection said. I cried, I screamed, I saw what they were doing, and I screamed. I stepped back. "What are you?" "I'm what they threw away." Its skin shimmered, cracked. I saw something moving beneath it again, like writhing cables, like veins full of insects. "You came down here because you wanted to know," it whispered. "Now you do." "Know what?" It tilted its head. "That you're not the only one who remembers." It reached out and the glass bent. I ran. The door slammed behind me as I scrambled up the stairs. I didn't stop until I was outside under the wide grey sky. I stood in the grass, panting, and then I heard the sound. Click, click, click from the basement window. Nails on glass. I turned. The reflection was there, watching, smiling. Behind the pane, it pressed one pale hand to the glass. There was a new bruise on its wrist. The same place I had one. That night, my parents set an extra plate at the table. They didn't look at me when I asked who it was for. They just said, "Your brother's coming up soon." Chapter 5. The second plate. The extra plate stayed, every night. No one sat in the empty chair, but my parents served it food anyway, quietly, deliberately. My mother ladled soup into the bowl without looking up. My father placed a napkin on the lap of nobody, and when I tried to ask why, they both gave me the same answer. "He's hungry." They never used a name. They didn't need to. I stopped eating. I just stared at the empty seat, heart rattling in my chest. Sometimes the spoon would move. I swear I saw it. A tremble, a clink, a ripple in the broth like something had dipped a finger inside. One night, after they cleared the dishes, I stood near the chair and asked the air, "Is it you?" No answer. Just a faint creak from below the floorboards. The basement. My sleep worsened. I started waking up in places I didn't remember falling asleep. Under the bed, in the hallway, even once crouched inside my closet with my mouth full of dirt. My fingernails were cracked. There were scratch marks on the inside of my bedroom door. I asked my mom if I'd sleepwalked as a kid. She didn't answer. Just kept stirring something in a pot that smelled like rot and sugar. The mirror in the bathroom stayed fogged now, even hours after showers. Sometimes I saw my reflection blink when I hadn't. Then, one morning, the second plate was empty. Not just served, cleared. No trace of food, no spoon. Just crumbs and a faint smudge of red on the rim, like someone had licked it clean. I ran to the basement door, tried the knob, still locked. I turned to my dad. "Did you open it?" I asked. "Did you let him out?" He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks, and said he's always been out. You just stopped noticing. That was when I started watching the windows. Sometimes I saw me outside. Not a reflection, not a dream. Me, watching through the glass, waving. Chapter 6. The Masked Boy. It was almost morning when I saw him in my room. The boy, the one they left behind, the one they feed now. He wasn't hiding anymore. He stood in the corner, still and pale, and his skin blotched with rust-coloured veins. He wore my pyjamas, a pair I hadn't seen in years, blue with tiny stars. He stared at me with eyes that almost looked like mine, but wider, wetter, too much white. "I didn't scream first," he said softly. "That was you." My throat closed. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. "You cried," he continued, "and they thought it meant you were weak. So they picked you, the one who needed more love, more fixing." He took a step forward. The floor didn't creak. "You got to live upstairs," while I sat down there, in the dark, waiting to be remembered. I backed against the headboard, heart pounding. "You took my name," he whispered, "and they never even checked." I shook my head. I didn't know." "You did," he snapped, and suddenly the boy's face twitched. Not just his expression, his whole skin, like it was loose, too big, sliding over a frame that didn't fit right. He reached up and gripped the flesh of his own cheek, and peeled. The skin came away like a mask. Beneath it was something slick, veined with red and black, crawling with hair-fine tendrils. His eyes were glass beads in a writhing nest. His mouth stretched wide and wet. "I remember what Mom said before she left me," he gurgled, voice distorted by the shape underneath. "She said, 'Don't worry, baby. We'll come back for the real one.'" I screamed. Not in fear, in recognition. Because I remembered it too. Her voice, those words, like she said them to me. But she hadn't. Not the real one. The boy lunged. I rolled off the bed, slamming into the floor. My knees scraped raw. I scrambled for the hallway and slammed into my mother. She didn't flinch. Her eyes were wide open. Her smile was too stiff. Behind her, my father stood. Between them, they held something in their hands. A mask, pale, worn smooth, shaped exactly like my face. "It's time," she said gently. "We've made our choice." My father nodded. We picked the quiet one. Then they lunged. To be continued in Chapter 7. Would you like Chapters 7 and 8 next? Chapter 7. A Mouth in the Wall. I woke up with the mask on my face. It was cold, bone cold, and pressed tight against my skin. I couldn't move my lips. I couldn't scream. It was like the thing had grown onto me in my sleep. Or maybe I wasn't asleep at all. The straps weren't leather. They were something else. Something wet and fibrous, winding around the back of my head like ivy or worms. I ripped it off. It screamed. Not out loud, but inside me. The kind of sound that fills the cracks in your skull, like a violin string pulled until it snaps. I threw the mask across the room. It landed with a soft thud, face up. My face. But not asleep. Its eyes twitched. Its mouth moved, soundless, smiling. I stumbled into the hallway. No lights, just moonlit shapes and breathing wood. And then I heard it. A voice from the wall. At first it was just whispering, low, shifting, like someone reciting secrets into drywall. Then it changed. The wall opened. A slit appeared near the baseboard, between the pictures of me and my family that I no longer recognized. A thin, wet crack. Breathing. Then it spoke. "Trade places." I backed away, barefoot and shivering. "You don't deserve that body," the voice hissed. You don't even know how you got it. I screamed for my parents. No answer. I screamed for anyone. The mouth laughed. I don't remember falling asleep, or if I ever woke up. But the next morning, my reflection was gone. No mirror in the house showed my face. Not the bathroom, not the hallway, not the chrome toaster. All I saw was static, a flickering blur of motion that didn't move like me. When I closed one eye, it closed the other. When I tilted my head left, it tilted right. My body was still mine, but something else was moving underneath, waiting. That night there was a new noise from the basement. Not scratching, not whispers. Climbing. Wood groaned, nails creaked, floorboards trembled. I crouched at the top of the stairs, hand on the doorknob, when something knocked from the other side. 3 times. A pause. Then a voice, mine but younger. "I can help you remember," it whispered. "I know which one you are." I pressed my ear to the door. No sound. Then, click, the lock turned, but I hadn't touched it. Chapter 8. I remember now. The basement stairs were shorter this time, or I was taller. Everything had shifted, angles too narrow, steps too steep, corners too sharp. The walls felt closer, the air was thicker, I could taste it. There was no bulb overhead anymore, only dark and something moving inside it. I descended slowly. The second door, the one swollen with damp, was wide open. No rust this time, no crib, just the mirror. Still standing tall, still wrong. This time I didn't see myself. I saw the basement, from behind me, and in the mirror I wasn't alone. A figure stood just beyond the edge of the reflection. Barefoot, pale, wearing my skin. I turned around. No one. But in the mirror, it stepped forward. Then it spoke. "You're the one who screamed." My mouth opened, but the sound came from the mirror. "You're the one who begged. You said take him, not me. You pointed at me. I was the one who smiled because I thought we were playing." It stepped closer. Closer. "I thought you loved me." My throat clenched. Memories surged. A hallway. 2 children. 2 parents. A choice. Me, screaming. Him silent. "They thought you were the broken one," the boy whispered. "They thought you needed more care, more time. They took you upstairs." His eyes filled with blood, or something like it, and I rotted in the dark. The mirror cracked. I ran. I got halfway up the stairs before I heard the last thing that made sense. Not words. Breathing. From the walls. From the floor. From inside me. My skin itched. I looked down and saw my fingers twitching on their own, like they were learning how to move again. And then I remembered. The game we used to play. Switch. Tag. Copy. I ran to the bathroom. Looked in the mirror. Still no reflection. But faintly, just faintly on the inside of the glass, 2 handprints pressed from the other side. And between them, written in fog, "You're the wrong one." Chapter 9. What my parents buried. They didn't lock the basement anymore. The door hung crooked on its hinges. One of the hinges looked like it had been chewed. My mother stopped cleaning, stopped cooking, stopped blinking when she spoke. My father had no more words at all. He just sat in his recliner, the same newspaper clenched in his hands, the same page, the obituary section. Sometimes I caught him staring into the middle distance, lips moving, like he was reading something no one else could see. That night I asked them both. I said, "Who was he?" They didn't answer. I said, "What did you do to him?" Still nothing. So I said the last thing I could think of. "I remember now." That got a reaction. My mother looked up, smiled, empty. "Good," she whispered. "Then you know where to dig." I didn't want to go back to the basement, but I had no choice. Something had changed in me. Or maybe something had returned. The old cellar shovel was still hanging on the wall untouched. I took it down. The air was thick with mildew and something older. I passed the broken crib, the cracked mirror, the stain on the cement that pulsed if you stared too long. I began to dig. There was no clear spot, no X to mark it. Just an instinct, an ache deep in my bones that told me here. I dug until my fingers bled. The soil was wrong. It wasn't dirt. It was like digging through fabric, through thick, rotted clothing packed into flesh. And then I hit something solid. I scraped away the muck, and there it was, a shoe, small, blue with tiny stars, just like mine. I pulled harder, uncovering more. A brittle leg, a limp arm, a child's torso folded in on itself like it had been broken to fit inside the earth. The face had no features left, just a smooth mask of decay. But there, clenched in the corpse's hand, was a photograph, a picture of two boys, twins. Only one of them had eyes scratched out, not torn off, scratched from the inside of the paper, like something had reached out through the image and erased him. That night I burned the photograph. But the face with the scratched-out eyes kept visiting my dreams, and every morning I woke up with less of my own face left. Chapter 10. The Wrong One Lives Downstairs. I'm writing this now because I don't know how much longer I'll be able to. My fingers aren't listening the way they used to. Sometimes they type things I don't remember thinking. Like just now I wrote, "He was the quiet one." I didn't mean to. I think he's taking over. Or maybe I'm remembering who I was before. 3 nights ago, I locked every door, every window. Still, I heard footsteps upstairs, even though I was already up there. They were in my room. They were pacing. Then I saw him again, at the top of the basement stairs, wearing my face better than I ever could, smiling like he never lost it in the first place. He didn't say anything this time. He just looked at me, like he felt sorry for me. The next day, I caught my mother speaking into the floor vent. She whispered, "You'll be free soon." She dropped something through the grate, a photograph of a birthday, 2 candles, 2 boys. Only one of them had been cut out of the frame, clean with scissors. That night, she and my father disappeared. I found their shoes by the door, still warm, still full. Now the boy downstairs isn't hiding anymore. He walks the hall at night. He sleeps in my bed during the day. He eats my food, and every time I look in a mirror, I see less of me and more of him. I try to scream, but my mouth won't move. I try to cry, but the tears fall upward, back into my eyes. And last night, I found a note taped to the inside of my closet, written in my handwriting. It said, "Thank you for switching." I live downstairs now. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know he does. He's up there, laughing, sleeping, smiling, loving my life better than I ever could. And when people ask him what happened to his brother, he just says, "He screamed first."